Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lilly, and I'm genuinely thrilled you've decided to join me today on what I think is going to be one of the most transformative episodes we've created so far. Whether you're listening during your morning commute, while working out, or maybe even while making lunch, I'm excited to share something really important with you today. So, if you've ever felt frustrated because you're trying to learn English but you don't have anyone to practice speaking with, I want you to know right now that you are absolutely not alone in feeling that way. In fact, I'd say that about 90% of English learners at some point face this exact challenge, and they feel stuck because they think speaking requires a conversation partner. But here's the thing that I've discovered over many years of helping people improve their English, and what I'm going to reveal to you throughout this entire episode. Having no one to practice with is not actually a limitation at all. In fact, it can become your greatest advantage if you know how to leverage it properly. Speaking English fluently does not require sitting across from a native speaker. It doesn't mean you have to travel to an English-speaking country, and it definitely doesn't mean you need to break the bank paying for expensive conversation lessons. What you actually need is a solid plan, unwavering consistency with your practice, and most importantly, the willingness to show up and practice even when nobody is watching and nobody will ever know that you did it. That's the real secret, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that today. By the end of this podcast episode, you're going to feel so much more confident and motivated because you'll have concrete, actionable techniques that you can implement immediately in your own life. Throughout this journey we're about to take together, I'm going to share powerful techniques that have been proven to work. I'll give you real examples that you can relate to, and I'll walk you through exercises that you can actually follow and practice while you're listening to this. Whether you're in your room, your kitchen, your bathroom, or even in your car during your commute, you're going to discover that practicing English alone can be just as fun and incredibly effective as practicing with another person, maybe even more effective because you get to go at your own pace. I'll be explaining how you can transform your entire daily routine into a speaking opportunity, techniques for actually thinking in English instead of translating in your head, methods for talking to yourself in a structured and intentional way, and how to create conversations that feel absolutely real and natural, even when you're practicing completely alone. I want you to grab a notebook if you like taking notes, but honestly, just relax and listen. This entire episode is designed to be incredibly practical, really encouraging, and absolutely packed with strategies and techniques to boost your fluency. So let's get started on this solo English speaking journey together, because by the end of this episode, you're going to realize that you already have everything you need to become a significantly better English speaker. You just need guidance on how to use what you already have: your voice, your space, and your time. Let me start with what I consider the foundation of solo English speaking practice, the habit of speaking out loud to yourself. Now, I know that might sound a little bit strange at first, and I get it. Most of us were probably told as kids to be quiet, to not talk to ourselves, that it's weird. But I'm telling you right now that speaking out loud to yourself is literally one of the most powerful, most effective ways to improve your English fluency, and it's completely free. Here's why this works so well. When you speak out loud, you're not just thinking about English in your head, which is abstract and vague. You're actually producing the sounds. You're hearing your own voice speaking English, and your brain is making connections between the words you're saying and the actual sounds coming out of your mouth. It's multi-sensory learning, which is scientifically proven to help with memory retention and skill development far more than just thinking about something. The best way to begin this practice is incredibly simple. Start describing everything you do throughout your entire day in English. When you wake up in the morning, don't just get out of bed, but say it out loud in English. You might say, "I'm getting out of bed right now. I'm walking to the bathroom. I'm turning on the light. I'm washing my face with cold water." These aren't fancy sentences, and they don't need to be grammatically perfect. The goal here is to get comfortable hearing yourself speak in English, to train your brain to produce English sounds naturally. Let me give you a more detailed example so you can really see how this works. Imagine you're preparing breakfast on a Sunday morning. You would narrate the entire process out loud. You might say something like, "I'm opening the refrigerator now. The cold air is hitting my face. I'm looking at what I have available. I see eggs, milk, cheese, and some vegetables. I'm taking out 2 eggs and placing them on the counter. Now I'm finding a bowl. I'm cracking the first egg carefully. I'm watching the yolk fall into the bowl. I'm cracking the second egg. Now I need to mix them together, so I'm grabbing a fork." As you say all these sentences out loud, something magical is happening in your brain. You're literally training your neural pathways to connect English vocabulary with actions in real time. This helps your brain work faster when you need to speak, and it helps your speech sound more natural and automatic. The key thing to understand is that it's absolutely not about making perfect grammar at the beginning. It's not about using complex sentence structures. It's simply about becoming comfortable hearing yourself speak, building confidence in your own voice, and training your brain to produce English automatically. Now, let me give you a practice exercise that you can actually do right now or save for later when you're making breakfast. Imagine you're preparing your favorite meal. Start by saying out loud, "I'm starting to cook now. I'm going to open the cabinet and take out a pan. The pan feels heavy in my hand. I'm placing it on the stove. Now I'm turning the heat to medium. I need oil, so I'm reaching for the bottle of olive oil. I'm pouring some oil into the pan. The oil is starting to sizzle slightly. The smell is amazing already." You see what's happening here? You're not just practicing English, you're also bringing mindfulness and presence to your daily activities. You're becoming more aware of what you're doing, and simultaneously, you're improving your English. As you practice this consistently, your brain starts to anticipate what word comes next. Your mouth becomes more comfortable forming English sounds, and your overall fluency naturally increases. Here's something important that I want to emphasize. Don't be afraid of making mistakes during this process. Mistakes are not failures. They're actually proof that you're pushing yourself and learning. Every single native speaker makes mistakes, stumbles over words, and has to rephrase themselves. The only difference is that native speakers have had thousands and thousands of hours of practice, so their mistakes are fewer and less noticeable. Your job right now is just to keep talking, keep making mistakes, and trust that with repetition and consistency, your brain will naturally absorb the correct patterns. Now, let's move to a technique that I absolutely love and that I've seen transform people's confidence in remarkable ways: mirror speaking. This is where you literally stand in front of a mirror, you look yourself in the eyes, and you have a conversation with yourself in English. I know it sounds simple, but the psychological impact is actually quite profound. When you look at yourself while speaking English, several things happen simultaneously. First, you become immediately more aware of your facial expressions, your mouth movements, and how you're physically producing the language. Second, you're forced to make eye contact with yourself, which over time significantly reduces the fear and anxiety that many people feel about speaking in English in front of others. Third, your confidence starts building because you're proving to yourself that you can actually do this. You can actually form sentences in English and speak them out loud. Let me walk you through exactly how to set up a mirror speaking practice session. First, you'll want to find a quiet space where you have a full length or at least a head and shoulders mirror where you can see your face clearly. Then you can introduce yourself to yourself in English. You might say something like, "Hi, my name is your name, and I'm truly excited to be here today. I'm learning English because I have a dream to study abroad and experience a new culture. I'm committed to practicing every single day to achieve my goal. I can see myself becoming more fluent with each passing week." As you say these things to yourself, pay attention to how your lips move, how you're pronouncing words, whether you're speaking too fast or too slow. You can even adjust your speech in the moment if you notice something doesn't feel quite right. This real-time feedback is incredibly valuable because you're essentially becoming your own English coach and your own audience at the same time. Here's a structured mirror speaking routine that you can use whenever you have a few minutes available. Look at yourself and say this out loud. Good morning, and I'm delighted to see you today. I'm feeling confident, positive, and ready to make progress with my English skills. Every single day, I'm getting better and more fluent. I believe deeply in myself and my ability to master this language. I'm grateful for my determination and my willingness to practice even when it's challenging. I know that speaking English fluently is within my reach. Don't underestimate the power of what's actually happening here. When you speak positive affirmations to yourself while looking in the mirror, you're doing multiple things at once. You're practicing pronunciation and speaking fluency. You're building positive associations with English learning. You're increasing your self-confidence, and you're sending a positive message to your subconscious mind about your capabilities. Psychology research shows that people who engage in positive self-talk and mirror work actually do achieve their goals at significantly higher rates than people who don't. If you're someone who feels particularly shy or anxious about speaking, mirror work is genuinely transformative. You're practicing in the lowest stakes environment possible, where there's zero social pressure, and yet the benefits transfer directly to real-world conversations. I've worked with so many people who told me, Lily, I was terrified to speak in English, but after practicing in front of the mirror for a few weeks, I felt so much more confident when I had to actually speak to someone. Here's another mirror speaking exercise that I really recommend trying. Describe your goals and dreams for your English learning. Look at yourself and say something like, within 6 months, I want to be able to hold a conversation entirely in English without translating in my head. I want to speak with clarity and confidence. I want to travel to an English-speaking country and navigate completely on my own. I want to watch movies in English without subtitles and understand everything. These goals motivate me every day. I'm committed to doing the work necessary to achieve them. The beautiful thing about this technique is that it combines speaking practice with motivation and goal visualization. You're keeping your ultimate goal in mind while simultaneously practicing the skill you need to achieve that goal. It's a win-win situation. And every single time you look at yourself speaking these goals into existence, you're reinforcing them in your mind and making them feel more real and more achievable. Okay, so now I want to talk about something that's honestly a game changer for English learners, and that's thinking in English. This might be one of the most important concepts I share with you in this entire episode because it directly impacts your speaking fluency in profound ways. Most English learners, especially in the beginning, have a process where they think of something in their native language and then they mentally translate it into English before they speak it. This process is slow, it's inefficient, and it creates a bottleneck in your fluency. What I'm going to teach you is how to train your brain to think directly in English, bypassing the translation step entirely. And the beautiful thing is, you can start this process immediately, and it's actually quite simple, though it does require consistency and intentional practice. The key is to start very small. You don't try to think complex thoughts in English all at once. You start with simple, basic thoughts. For instance, when you see a chair in your house, instead of thinking the word in your head in your native language and then translating it to English, you simply think the word chair directly. When you're hungry, you don't translate. You directly think, I'm hungry. I want to eat something. When you're tired, you think, I'm tired. I need to rest. These are incredibly simple thoughts, but they're training your brain to work in English from the ground up. Here's how you can build this habit. Make it a goal throughout your day to name everything around you in English. As you're looking around your environment right now, wherever you are listening to this, you might internally name the objects you see. You might think, I see a window, I see a lamp, I see a wall. I see a door. I see my phone. You're not translating. You're just directly accessing the English words. Over time, this becomes automatic. When you encounter a word that you don't know in English, make a note of it. Write it down or make a mental note to look it up later. Don't let this stop you. Don't let a missing word derail your practice. Just keep going, and then when you have a moment, look up the word and add it to your vocabulary. Then commit to using that new word in your thinking the next time you encounter that object or concept. One of the most practical ways to develop this thinking in English skill is through something called internal narration. Throughout your day, continuously narrate what you're doing in your mind in English using the present continuous tense. I'm walking to the kitchen. I'm opening the refrigerator. I'm looking for something cold to drink. I'm finding a bottle of water. I'm opening the bottle. I'm taking a sip. The water is cold and refreshing. This internal narration does something really powerful in your brain. It's creating a constant stream of English, it's building automatic vocabulary retrieval, and it's making you think faster in English. Over weeks and months of doing this, you'll start noticing that when you actually need to speak English to another person, the words come out so much more naturally and fluently because you've been doing this internal practice constantly. Let me also mention something called imaginary conversations, which is directly related to thinking in English. Imagine that you're in a cafe and someone is ordering coffee next to you, and they ask the barista what they recommend. In your mind, you have a conversation. What would you recommend for me today? Well, our specialty is the espresso. It's really smooth and rich. I've been drinking it every morning for the past month. Perfect. I'll have an espresso then. Would you like anything else? No, just the espresso. That will be $5, please. By having these imaginary conversations in your mind, you're developing your ability to think in English, you're rehearsing common scenarios, and you're building fluency in a way that feels relevant to your actual life. The more vivid and detailed you can make these imaginary conversations, the better the practice. Try to imagine not just the words, but also the setting, the emotions, the details. This makes it more memorable and more applicable to real-world situations. Building on that idea of imaginary conversations, let me teach you about something that I think is absolutely invaluable for solo English speaking practice: role-playing and creating simulated conversations. This is where you practice both sides of a conversation, creating realistic dialogue scenarios that you might actually encounter in your life. The beauty of this technique is that you can create any scenario you want, practice it as many times as you want, and refine your responses until they feel natural and fluent. Let's say you're planning to travel soon and you're nervous about speaking English in hotels or restaurants. You can practice these exact scenarios in your own home completely privately until you feel absolutely confident that you can handle them in real life. Here's how you set up a role-playing session. Choose a specific scenario. Let's say you're in a clothing store shopping for a jacket. You're going to play both the customer and the store assistant. Start with the store assistant part. Hello, welcome to our store. How can I help you today? Now switch to being the customer. Hi, thanks for asking. I'm looking for a warm jacket that would be suitable for spring weather. Back to the assistant. Great, what size do you usually wear? Customer, I normally wear a medium. Do you have any jackets in that size available? Assistant, yes, actually, we just got new stock in. Let me show you a few options. What color are you interested in? You continue this dialogue playing both roles, and you're engaging your brain in a real conversation. You have to think about what a real person would say in that situation, you have to respond appropriately, you have to use relevant vocabulary, and you're getting comfortable with the flow of a conversation. When you later go into an actual store and have a real conversation, your brain already has a template for how these conversations typically go. Let me give you another scenario that many people need to practice: visiting a doctor's office because you're not feeling well. You might practice something like this. Good morning, how are you feeling today?
I haven't been feeling very well. I've had a persistent headache for the last few days, and I'm also feeling quite fatigued. How long have you had these symptoms? Have you noticed anything else that's bothering you? The headache started about 3 days ago, and I've been sleeping more than usual, but I'm still exhausted. Okay, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, and then I'll perform an examination. When you practice these scenarios, you're not just learning English, you're also learning the cultural norms and expected behaviors for different situations. In a doctor's office, people tend to be more formal and detailed in explaining their symptoms. In a cafe with a friend, the language is much more casual and comfortable. By practicing different scenarios, you're developing flexibility in your English and the ability to adjust your register and formality level depending on the situation. Here's another valuable scenario to practice: job interviews, because many people find this particularly anxiety-inducing. You might say, "Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I'm really excited about this opportunity." Then the interviewer responds, "Thanks for coming in. Tell me a little about your background and experience." I have 5 years of experience in marketing. In my previous role, I led a team of 3 people and oversaw our company's social media strategy. I increased our engagement by 40%. Interviewer, that's impressive. What do you think is your greatest strength in a professional setting? The more realistic and detailed you can make these practice conversations, the better prepared you'll feel when you actually encounter the real situation. And here's something important. You don't need to memorize exact responses. The goal is to become familiar with the types of questions that come up, the vocabulary that's commonly used, and the flow of the conversation, so that when you're actually in the situation, your brain can access all of this information easily and respond naturally. Now, let me share one of the most effective techniques for improving your speaking that also gives you concrete feedback on your progress: recording your own voice. Most people have a voice recorder app on their phones already, or they can easily download one, and this tool is incredibly powerful for English learning. The beauty of recording yourself is that you get objective feedback on your pronunciation, your pacing, your clarity, and even your grammar when you listen back. Here's how to do it effectively. Choose a specific topic, something you're comfortable talking about. It could be my daily routine, or my favorite food, or a memorable trip I took, or my career goals. Give yourself a time limit, maybe 2 minutes to start, and then just start recording. Speak freely about your chosen topic. Don't stop to edit yourself. Don't go back and redo parts. Just keep talking and let the words flow out. If you stumble, that's fine. Just keep going. If you pause to think of a word, that's okay too. Just continue when the word comes to you. Once you finish recording, you're going to listen to the entire recording without judging yourself or interrupting. Just listen. As you listen, you're going to notice certain things. Maybe you noticed that you spoke too quickly in some parts and too slowly in others. Maybe you realized that you have a tendency to say the word like or between sentences, which is actually a common filler word that native speakers use too, so that's fine. Maybe you noticed that your pronunciation of a particular word was off, or that you repeated the same idea multiple times instead of expressing different thoughts. Write down these observations. Don't be harsh with yourself. Be constructive and curious. The goal here is to use this feedback to improve your next recording. So let's say you noticed that you spoke very quickly, maybe too fast to be understood clearly. Your goal for the next recording would be to intentionally slow down and speak more deliberately. Or maybe you noticed that your pronunciation of a specific sound wasn't quite right. You can spend some focused time on that particular sound and then record again. Here's a structured recording practice that I recommend. Pick a topic, let's say my favorite hobby, and record yourself speaking about it for 1 minute. Then listen back and notice specifically: did I speak clearly enough that someone could understand every word? Did I use appropriate vocabulary for this topic? Did I speak at a natural pace? Did I sound confident or nervous? Did I use any filler words like or like? After you've evaluated yourself once, I recommend recording yourself on the same topic again, but this time, consciously try to improve the areas where you felt you needed work. Maybe you'll slow down, maybe you'll add more descriptive details, maybe you'll speak with more confidence and energy. Then, listen to this second recording and compare it to the first one. You'll be amazed at how much you can improve from one recording to the next, and this tangible evidence of progress is incredibly motivating. Make this a weekly habit. Every week, pick a new topic, record yourself, evaluate, and then record again with improvements. Over the course of several weeks, you'll hear significant improvement in your pronunciation, your fluency, your confidence, and your overall speaking ability. And here's a bonus tip. You can save these recordings and listen to older ones after several months. Hearing your progress over time is incredibly encouraging and helps you stay motivated for long-term learning. Some specific topics you might want to record yourself talking about include your morning routine, your favorite movie or book, a challenging situation you recently overcame, your dream job, why you're learning English, a recipe you know how to make, your hometown, your best friend, a funny story from your past, your goals for the next year, or any other topic that's personally meaningful to you. Here's something I absolutely love about solo English speaking practice. Your regular day is already full of built-in opportunities to practice speaking. You don't need to carve out special time or create an artificial scenario. Your real life, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, is full of activities that can become mini speaking sessions. All you have to do is learn how to leverage them. Think about it. You probably spend time cooking every day, or at least preparing meals. While you're chopping vegetables, measuring ingredients, stirring a pot, or plating your food, you can be speaking English. You might say, "I'm chopping these onions into small pieces. The onions are making my eyes water slightly. I'm moving them to the side of the cutting board. Now I'm heating oil in the pan. The oil is starting to shimmer, which means it's hot enough. I'm adding the onions to the pan. The smell is already delicious." Or think about cleaning. Most people spend at least 30 minutes a week cleaning their home, whether that's vacuuming, doing laundry, washing dishes, or organizing. This is perfect speaking practice time. While you're washing dishes, you might say, "I'm filling the sink with hot water. I'm adding dish soap. The water is turning slightly cloudy. I'm putting the dishes in the water. I'm scrubbing this plate to remove the food residue. The sponge feels soft in my hand. I'm rinsing the plate under the tap. The water is running clear now, which means it's clean." When you're doing laundry, you might narrate, "I'm checking the pockets of my jeans before washing them. I found a receipt and some spare change. I'm loading the clothes into the washing machine. I need to add detergent. I'm pouring the right amount. I'm selecting the warm water setting. I'm starting the machine. The water is filling up and the clothes are starting to move." If you're someone who exercises, that's another perfect opportunity. While you're exercising, especially activities where your hands are free and you can speak, you might narrate your workout. "I'm starting with 5 minutes of warm-up. I'm jogging in place. My heart rate is increasing. Now I'm doing jumping jacks. I'm starting to feel warmer. I'm transitioning to strength training. I'm doing push-ups. I can feel my arm muscles working. I'm taking a brief rest. My breathing is becoming more regular." If you have a commute, whether that's walking, taking public transportation, or driving, that's prime speaking time. If you're walking, you can describe the environment around you. "The sun is shining brightly today. There are several people walking in different directions. I see a woman with a dog. The dog is a golden retriever, and it looks very friendly. I'm passing a coffee shop, and the smell of fresh coffee is really noticeable. I see a park with children playing. It looks like a beautiful day for outdoor activities." If you're driving and can safely speak, you can do similar narration or practice having conversations with imaginary passengers. If you're on public transportation, you can be more quiet, but still internally narrate what you see and experience. Here's a specific evening practice that I think is wonderful and really helps consolidate learning. After your day is finished, find a quiet place where you can sit for just 5 minutes.
Close your eyes if you want to, and imagine you're telling a close friend about your entire day. Start by saying, "Today was quite a busy day, actually. I woke up earlier than usual because I had to prepare for an important meeting. I made my breakfast and ate quickly. Then I headed to the office where I spent most of the morning working on a project with my team. Around noon, I took a lunch break and ate with a colleague. We had a nice conversation about our weekend plans. In the afternoon, I had the important meeting that I mentioned, and it went really well. Our team received positive feedback about our work. After work, I went to the gym for my usual workout routine. I spent about an hour there. When I got home, I made dinner and relaxed by watching a show. Finally, I'm getting ready for bed now and reflecting on my day." This kind of reflection practice does multiple things simultaneously. It helps you consolidate your memories of the day. It gives you practice with past tense narration, which is essential for English fluency. It helps you organize your thoughts in a linear, coherent way, and it reinforces vocabulary related to daily activities. Over time, this practice makes you much more comfortable and fluent when talking about your day to real English speakers. Okay, so now I want to teach you about a technique that's specifically designed to improve your pronunciation, your rhythm, your intonation, and your ability to understand and respond to spoken English in real time. This technique is called shadowing, and it's used by professional language learners and interpreters around the world because it's that effective. Shadowing is when you listen to someone speaking English, and immediately after they finish a phrase or sentence, you repeat exactly what they said, trying to copy their pronunciation, their rhythm, and their tone as closely as possible. It's like you're their shadow, following right behind them and mirroring their speech. The key is to do this immediately, not after thinking about it. You hear it, and your mouth starts moving to reproduce the sound. You can use almost any English audio content for shadowing: short videos, news clips, podcast episodes, movie scenes, or audiobooks. The key is to choose content where you can understand at least most of what's being said. If the content is too advanced, it becomes frustrating. If it's too easy, you're not pushing yourself enough. Look for that sweet spot in the middle. Here's how to set up a shadowing practice session. Find a short piece of audio, maybe 30 seconds to 2 minutes long. Listen to it once just to get familiar with it. Then play it again, and this time pause after each sentence or phrase and repeat what you heard. For example, let's say the audio says, "I don't have any specific plans for this weekend." You would pause the audio and say out loud, "I don't have any specific plans for this weekend," trying to match the pronunciation, stress, and intonation of the original speaker. Here's a mini shadowing practice we can do right now. I'm going to speak some sentences, and you're going to repeat each one out loud after I finish. Ready? Listen carefully. I usually wake up at 7 in the morning, and I like to start my day with a cup of hot coffee. Now you repeat that out loud, trying to match my pace and intonation. Next one. I really enjoy taking a morning walk in the park before having breakfast. Repeat that. One more. In the evening, I love to read a book or watch an interesting show before going to bed. Repeat that as well. What's happening when you do this is really interesting from a neuroscience perspective. You're training your ears to hear English clearly, you're training your mouth and your vocal cords to produce English sounds accurately, and you're training your brain to connect the sound with the meaning. You're building automatic speech patterns that feel natural and native-like. I recommend doing shadowing for just 5 to 10 minutes daily. Even that small amount of consistent practice can bring remarkable results within just a few weeks. You'll notice that you understand spoken English more easily, that your own pronunciation improves, and that when you speak, you sound more natural and fluent because you've been training your brain to reproduce native-like speech patterns. Here's an important tip. Make this even more effective by recording yourself while you're shadowing. After you're done, compare your recording with the original. Ask yourself, did I match the tone and intonation? Did I stress the right words? Did I pronounce the words similarly?
Don't be discouraged if your first attempts don't sound exactly like the original. That's completely normal. Your ear is learning to hear the subtle differences, and your mouth is learning to produce new sounds. With practice, you'll get closer and closer. Start with short and simple content, things you find relatively easy to understand. As you develop this skill and your confidence grows, gradually move to more complex and challenging content. Over time, you'll develop an incredible ability to understand English when you hear it spoken at natural speed, and your own pronunciation will significantly improve. Now let me teach you about a structured approach to solo speaking practice that I call topic-based speaking. This is where you choose a specific topic and speak about it for a dedicated amount of time, without worrying about grammar, without stopping to correct yourself, and without any preparation. You just talk. Here's why this is so valuable. Most fluency comes from being able to speak continuously about topics that interest you or that you might encounter in real life. If you can speak fluently about your family, your hobbies, your work, your interests, and your goals, you're going to be able to handle most conversations you encounter. Here's how to set this up. Each day, pick one topic that you're going to focus on. On Monday, maybe your topic is my family. On Tuesday, it could be my hobbies and interests. On Wednesday, my favorite food. On Thursday, a place I want to visit. On Friday, my dream career. You get the idea. Choose a variety of topics that are personally meaningful to you. Once you've chosen your topic, you're going to speak about it for 1 to 2 minutes. You can set a timer to help you keep track of time. Don't worry about grammar in this moment. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just keep talking. The goal is to develop the ability to speak continuously about a topic without getting stuck or freezing up. Let's do an example right now. Let's say today's topic is my favorite city. You might speak something like this. My favorite city is definitely Barcelona. It's full of incredible culture, history, and art that I find absolutely fascinating. I love walking along the beaches where I can feel the Mediterranean breeze on my face. The Gothic Quarter is amazing with its narrow medieval streets and historic architecture. I've heard that the food is absolutely fantastic, especially the seafood and the traditional Spanish dishes. The people there are warm and friendly from what I understand. I would really love to visit Barcelona again and spend more time exploring everything the city has to offer. Notice that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to use advanced grammar. You don't need to sound like a textbook. You just need to be able to express your thoughts about the topic clearly and coherently. This is real, authentic speaking practice. Let me give you another example. Today's topic is my best friend. You might say, my best friend's name is Sarah, and I've known her since we were in elementary school together. We met because we sat next to each other in class, and we just clicked immediately. She's an incredibly kind person, always willing to help others and listen when someone needs to talk. We enjoy doing so many things together, like going to movies, having coffee, shopping, or just sitting and talking for hours. She gives really good advice, and I trust her completely. We've been through so many good times and challenging times together. I feel really lucky to have her as my best friend because she understands me better than almost anyone. The beautiful thing about this topic-based speaking practice is that it's building your ability to organize your thoughts around a central idea, to elaborate on that idea, to provide examples, and to speak coherently for a sustained period of time. These are all essential skills for fluent English speaking. Here are some topic ideas you might want to try. Your daily routine, your favorite hobby, a book or movie you enjoyed, your hometown, your job or studies, a memorable vacation, your family relationships, your health and fitness goals, your favorite restaurant, an important goal you're working toward, a challenging situation you've overcome, your ideal weekend, your favorite season, a person who has influenced you, your favorite holiday, your education, your talents and skills, your favorite technology, or any other topic that's meaningful to you. Now, let me teach you about question and answer drills, which is a fantastic technique for building conversational fluency. This is where you ask yourself questions and then answer them in full, complete sentences. This simulates the back-and-forth nature of actual conversation while you're practicing alone. Here's why this works so well. In real conversations, people don't deliver monologues. There's a back and forth, someone asks you a question, and you need to respond thoughtfully. By practicing question and answer drills, you're training your brain to hear a question and automatically generate an appropriate, fluent response. You're not just memorizing answers, you're developing the ability to think quickly and respond naturally. Here's how to structure a question and answer drill. Start by asking yourself a question out loud, then pause for a moment, and then answer that question in full sentences. For example, what do I usually eat for breakfast? Now pause and answer. I usually eat eggs and toast for breakfast. I like to have either scrambled eggs or fried eggs, depending on my mood that morning. I always include some whole wheat toast with a bit of butter and jam. Sometimes I drink a glass of orange juice or a cup of hot tea to go with it. I like to start my day with a healthy meal that gives me energy. Notice that the answer isn't just a short phrase like eggs and toast. It's a full, detailed response that elaborates on the initial answer. This is the kind of response that sounds fluent and natural in a real conversation. Let me give you another example. What do I usually do on weekends? Answer. On weekends, I usually like to relax at home and take a break from my busy work week. I spend time cleaning my apartment, organizing my space, and doing laundry. I often read a book, watch movies, or spend time on hobbies that I enjoy. Sometimes I meet up with my friends and we hang out together, maybe go to a cafe or do an activity together. Weekends are my time to recharge mentally and physically, so I try to be intentional about what I do with that time. Again, this isn't a one- or two-word answer. It's a full, coherent response that demonstrates your ability to express yourself fluently in English. Here's some question prompts you can use. What time do you usually wake up? How do you like to spend your free time? What's your favorite type of food? Where did you grow up? What are you passionate about? What challenges are you currently facing? What does your ideal day look like? How do you like to exercise? What are you reading or watching right now? What would you do if you won the lottery? What's the best advice anyone's ever given you? What's your biggest goal for this year? How do you deal with stress? What's your favorite season and why? Who has had the most influence on your life? I recommend doing question and answer drills for about 10 to 15 minutes. Choose 5 to 8 questions, ask yourself each one, and answer thoroughly. This practice is excellent for developing spontaneous speaking ability and for building confidence in responding to questions, which is essential for real conversations. Here's another powerful technique that I want to share with you: creating your own speaking scripts. This is where you write out a dialogue or monologue in English, and then you practice speaking it out loud multiple times until it becomes natural. The beauty of this approach is that you can target exactly the situations and vocabulary that are relevant to your life. If you know you're going to have a specific conversation in English soon, maybe a job interview or a doctor's appointment, you can prepare in advance by writing out a script for that situation and practicing it repeatedly. Here's how to create an effective script. First, think about the situation. Let's say you're going to visit a bank because you want to open a savings account. Write out what you think the conversation might look like, including both your part and the bank clerk's part. You might write something like, "Bank clerk, good morning. How can I help you today?" You, "Good morning. I'd like to open a savings account with your bank." "Certainly, I'd be happy to help you with that. Do you have any experience with our bank before?" "No, this is my first time here. I heard good things about your services from a friend." "That's great. Let me explain our savings account options and the interest rates we offer."
Once you've written out the script, you're going to read through it a few times to familiarize yourself with it. Then you're going to practice speaking it out loud multiple times. Don't try to memorize it word for word. Instead, practice until you understand the flow of the conversation and you can say your part naturally without reading it. The magic of this technique is that when you later face the actual situation, your brain already has a framework for how the conversation typically goes. You've already practiced it multiple times, so you feel confident and prepared. Even if the real conversation doesn't follow exactly the same script, you'll know the general structure and the vocabulary you need.
Let me give you another example, a restaurant scenario. You might create a script like this. Waiter, good evening, welcome to our restaurant. Have you been here before? You, no, this is our first time. We heard great things about the food here. Wonderful, I'm so glad you chose us. Can I start you off with something to drink? Yes, I'd like some water and maybe a glass of red wine. Excellent choices. Here's the menu. I'll give you a few minutes to decide what you'd like to eat.
Now, let me teach you about one of my favorite techniques for developing English fluency, storytelling. Telling stories in English helps you practice connecting sentences together. It helps you develop the ability to use different tenses, especially past tense, and it helps you express emotions and create an engaging narrative. Plus, storytelling is fun, and it makes language learning feel creative rather than mechanical. The beautiful thing about storytelling for language learning is that you don't need to make up complicated, elaborate stories. Simple stories from your own life are perfect. A funny thing that happened to you, an interesting conversation you had, a challenging situation you overcame, a memorable vacation, a time you were scared, or a time you were really happy. These personal stories are perfect material for English practice. Here's the key to effective storytelling in English. Use the past tense consistently, add specific details and examples, express emotions, and structure your story in a way that has a beginning, middle, and end. Let me give you an example. When I was in high school, I had this really funny experience in my English class. I forgot my homework on my kitchen table, and I was stressed about it. I went to school, and I told my teacher that I left it at home. Actually, I could have made up an excuse, but I decided to be honest. My teacher actually appreciated my honesty and gave me the chance to turn it in the next day. From that experience, I learned that honesty is always the best approach, even when it's challenging. That lesson has stayed with me throughout my life. That's a simple story, but it demonstrates several important skills. You're using past tense consistently, you're providing specific context and details, you're explaining your emotions and reasoning, and you have a clear conclusion and lesson learned. Let me give you another example of a storytelling practice. Last summer, I had a really memorable experience traveling to a new country for the first time. I was nervous before the trip because I wasn't sure how everything was going to go. When I arrived at the airport, I felt anxious about navigating in a place where English wasn't the primary language. But I took a deep breath and decided to be brave. I asked someone for directions in English, and even though my pronunciation wasn't perfect, they understood me and helped me. That gave me confidence to continue exploring. By the end of my trip, I had visited amazing places, tried new foods, met interesting people, and practiced my English in real situations. The experience changed my perspective on myself and my abilities. I realized that I'm more capable than I thought I was, and I'm definitely planning to travel again. This story demonstrates character development. It shows your growth, and it includes concrete examples and emotions. These are all the elements of effective storytelling. Here's a storytelling practice exercise you can do right now. Think about a happy moment from your life, maybe a celebration or a fun day with friends and family. Now tell that story out loud. Start with the setting. Last summer, I went to my best friend's birthday party, and it was such a wonderful celebration. Then add details. There were about 20 people there, including our closest friends and her family members.
We were sitting in a beautiful garden with lots of flowers and trees. The weather was perfect, sunny and warm with a gentle breeze. Then describe the events. We started with playing games and laughing so much. Then we had a delicious meal with different dishes. After eating, her family brought out the cake with candles. Finally, include your emotions and conclusion. I felt so happy being surrounded by people I care about. It was one of the best days I can remember, and I'm grateful for the chance to celebrate with my dear friend. The more you practice storytelling, the more natural and fluent your English becomes. You're not just learning vocabulary and grammar, you're learning how to use language to communicate meaningful experiences and emotions. That's real fluency.
Let me teach you about a technique called substitution drills, which is fantastic for training your brain to speak flexibly and to understand how language works at a deeper level. This is where you take a basic sentence and systematically replace different words or phrases with alternatives, creating variations of the same basic sentence structure. The reason this is so valuable is that it trains your brain to manipulate language, to understand which words can be interchanged and how changing one word changes the meaning of the entire sentence. It also helps you develop the ability to express the same idea in multiple different ways, which is essential for natural, fluent speaking.
Here's how it works. Let's start with a base sentence. I go to the gym every day. Now, let's do substitutions. First, let's replace the location. I go to the library every day. Then, I go to the park every day. Then, I go to the coffee shop every day. Now, let's take the original sentence and replace the frequency. I go to the gym every weekend. I go to the gym 3 times a week. I go to the gym occasionally. I go to the gym whenever I can. Let's replace the verb. I enjoy going to the gym every day. I love going to the gym every day. I hate going to the gym every day. I prefer going to the gym every day. Finally, let's replace the subject. She goes to the gym every day. We go to the gym every day. They go to the gym every day. My brother goes to the gym every day. See how by making these substitutions, you're creating a lot of different sentences from just one basic structure. Your brain is learning that you can use the same basic framework with different vocabulary to express different ideas. This is incredibly useful for real conversations. Let me give you another example with a different sentence. Base sentence, I like drinking coffee in the morning. Replace the beverage. I like drinking tea in the morning. I like drinking orange juice in the morning. I like drinking hot chocolate in the morning. Replace the time. I like drinking coffee in the afternoon. I like drinking coffee at night. I like drinking coffee during breakfast. Replace the verb. I enjoy drinking coffee in the morning. I prefer drinking coffee in the morning. I love drinking coffee in the morning. Now try this exercise with me. I'm going to give you a base sentence, and you're going to make substitutions. Ready? Base sentence. She studies English every evening. Now replace the subject. He studies English every evening. I study English every evening. My sister studies English every evening. They study English every evening. Now replace the subject and the language. He studies French every evening. I study French every evening. My sister studies German every evening. Now replace the time. He studies Spanish every morning. He studies Spanish on weekends. He studies Spanish after work. This kind of practice trains your brain to be flexible with language, to understand patterns, and to be able to express ideas in different ways. It's not just memorization, it's developing an intuitive understanding of how English works. Here's a technique that really helps develop your vocabulary and your ability to describe things in detail. Descriptive practice with visual observation. While you can't use visuals in this podcast, I'm going to explain how you can use this technique with images from your own phone, magazines, newspapers, or any visual materials you have access to. The practice is simple. You look at an image and you describe everything you see using detailed descriptive English. You're not just naming objects, you're describing colors, textures, relationships between things, emotions you perceive, and actions happening in the image. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're looking at a photo of a family at a picnic in a park. You would describe it like this. I'm looking at a photo of a family enjoying a picnic outdoors. There are 5 people in the image, 2 adults and 3 children. They're sitting on a colorful checkered blanket that's spread out on green grass. The family members are wearing casual summer clothing in bright colors. In the background, there are trees providing shade and the sky looks clear and blue. In the foreground, I can see a picnic basket, paper plates, and what appears to be sandwiches and fruits. The children seem happy and relaxed. One child is holding a watermelon slice. Everyone in the photo appears to be enjoying each other's company. The overall atmosphere of the photo is warm, peaceful, and joyful. Here's why this matters. When you encounter real situations where you need to describe something to someone in English, maybe describing an accident to insurance, or describing a suspect to police, or describing a property to someone interested in renting it, you'll have the language skills to do it clearly and completely. Try this practice yourself. Take a photo from your phone or a magazine. Look at it carefully. Start with the big picture. In this image, I see. Then add details about the location, the people or objects, the colors, the mood. Then describe the specific actions or elements. Finally, add your own observations or feelings about what you see. You can spend 5 to 10 minutes describing a single image in detail. The longer you spend on one image, the more vocabulary you'll use, and the more you'll challenge yourself to think of new words and descriptive phrases. This is excellent practice for developing fluency and descriptive ability. Let me share with you a technique that combines reflection, memory consolidation, and speaking practice, speaking your journal or speaking your diary. Many people write journals where they reflect on their day and their experiences, but you can also do this while speaking out loud, and it's incredibly effective for language development. The practice is simple. At the end of your day, when you have some quiet time, sit down somewhere comfortable and talk about your day out loud as if you're telling a close friend about it. You're reflecting on what happened, how you felt, what you learned, and any interesting moments or challenges you experienced. Here's an example of what a spoken journal session might sound like. Today was a really productive day, and I feel quite satisfied with what I accomplished. This morning, I woke up feeling refreshed after getting a good night's sleep. I had breakfast and prepared myself for work. At work, I had a challenging project that I was working on with my team. We faced some obstacles initially, but we worked together to solve them. That experience reminded me that collaboration is really important. At lunchtime, I sat with a colleague, and we had a nice conversation about our weekend plans. In the afternoon, I attended a meeting where we discussed future projects. The feedback I received was positive, which made me feel good about my work. After work, I went to the gym for my usual workout. I felt energized and focused during my training. When I got home, I made dinner and spent some time relaxing. I watched a show that I've been following. Before bed, I felt grateful for the good day I had. Here's something powerful about this practice. When you speak your day out loud in English, you're essentially creating a second memory of the day. You're not just remembering it vaguely, you're actively reconstructing it in language. This deepens your memory and also develops your storytelling abilities. I recommend doing a spoken journal session at least a few times a week, and ideally every evening. It doesn't have to be long. Even 5 to 10 minutes is valuable. Over time, you'll develop the ability to reflect on and articulate your experiences more clearly and fluently. Try this tonight. Sit down after your day is finished and talk about your day out loud for 5 minutes. Cover what you did in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Use transition words like then, after that, later in the day, finally, at the end of the day. Include both factual information and your emotional reactions to events. This is real, meaningful speaking practice that also helps you develop as a person through reflection.
Here's a practice exercise that really helps develop this skill. Take one sentence and say it multiple different ways with different emotions. Let's use the sentence, I passed the exam. Now say it with happiness and excitement. I passed the exam. I'm so happy. Now say it with surprise and disbelief. I actually passed the exam? I can't believe it. I thought I would definitely fail. Finally, I passed the exam. I was so stressed about it, but it's done now. The same sentence means different things depending on how you say it and what emotion you express. When you practice expressing different emotions while speaking English, you're developing your ability to communicate not just words, but meaning and feeling. You're sounding more human and relatable. You're developing the kind of expressive ability that native speakers have naturally.
Here's another emotion-based practice. Read the following phrases with the specified emotions. First, with sadness. I wish I could go to the party, but I can't. Now with anger. I can't believe they didn't invite me. Now with acceptance. Well, I guess I wasn't meant to go to that party, and that's okay. Now with excitement. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy I can finally go to the party. When you practice adding emotion to your speaking, you're developing your ability to be a more engaging and expressive communicator. You're learning that communication is about so much more than just words. It's about tone, emphasis, emotion, and energy. Here's a technique that I really recommend because it builds fluency in a natural, organic way. Practicing your English while you're doing other activities. This is what I call multitasking practice, and it's incredibly valuable because it trains your brain to access English automatically, even when you're focused on something else. The idea is that while you're doing routine activities that don't require intense mental focus, you're simultaneously narrating those activities or thinking about related topics in English. For example, while you're walking to work or school, instead of just walking in silence or listening to music, you can be narrating your walk in English. I'm walking down the street now. It's a beautiful morning. The sun is shining brightly. I can see many people walking in different directions. I'm passing a coffee shop. The smell of fresh coffee is really noticeable. I'm getting closer to my destination. Or while you're cooking dinner, you're narrating the cooking process. I'm chopping the vegetables now. I'm adding them to the pot. I can hear them sizzling in the oil. The aroma is delicious. I'm stirring the pot. The vegetables are cooking nicely. I need to add some seasoning. I'm reaching for the salt and pepper. Or while you're doing laundry, you're narrating. I'm sorting the clothes by color. I'm putting the whites in one pile and the colors in another. I'm loading the white clothes into the washing machine. I'm pouring in the detergent. I'm selecting the warm water setting. I'm starting the machine. The beauty of this multitasking practice is that your mind is engaged in English even when you're physically engaged in other activities. Over time, this develops automatic fluency because your brain is constantly producing English, not just in formal practice sessions, but throughout your daily life. Here's how to start this practice. Pick one routine activity that you do almost every day. Maybe it's your morning shower, or your commute, or your workout, or preparing meals. For the next week, use that activity as a time to practice English. Narrate what you're doing, describe the environment, think about related topics, or have imaginary conversations. Just make sure you're engaging your mind with English while you're doing this activity. After a week, if you like this practice, add another activity to your English practice time. Gradually, you'll accumulate multiple times during your day when you're practicing English while doing other things. This distributed practice is incredibly effective because it integrates English learning into your actual life rather than making it something separate.
Now let me share with you an advanced technique that can really add excitement and creativity to your solo practice. Advanced role-playing, where you create characters and personas for different scenarios. This goes beyond just practicing a simple conversation. You're actually creating a fully developed character with a background, personality, and perspective. For example, let's say you want to practice speaking English for a travel scenario. You don't just practice a generic tourist, you create a specific character. Maybe you're a photographer who's traveling to capture specific locations. Maybe you're a food blogger looking for authentic restaurants. Maybe you're a backpacker on a budget looking for cheap accommodations. Each character would speak differently, ask different questions, and have different concerns. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a travel photographer visiting a new city. You might say, "I'm here to photograph the architecture and cultural landmarks of this city. I've researched the best locations for photography, and I'm particularly interested in capturing shots during golden hour. I need to find accommodations that are close to the city center so I can easily access different locations. I'm hoping to meet local photographers who can recommend hidden gems that aren't in the tourist guides. I want my work to tell the authentic story of this city." Now imagine you're a food blogger visiting the same city. "I came here specifically to explore the local cuisine. I've read about some traditional restaurants that have been family-operated for generations. I want to interview the chefs and learn about the cooking techniques and ingredients they use. I'm looking for authentic local dishes, not tourist food. I want to film myself trying different foods and having conversations with the restaurant owners." The same city, but two completely different experiences and conversations because of the different characters and their priorities. Here's why this is so valuable. When you create and develop characters, you're developing a much wider range of vocabulary, perspectives, and conversational styles. You're learning how different types of people speak, what concerns them, what they ask about, and how they interact with others. This dramatically expands your conversational ability. Try this practice. Pick a scenario, let's say visiting a hospital because you're not feeling well. Now create two different characters. One could be an elderly person who's very concerned about traditional remedies, and another could be a young professional who's very busy and wants quick, efficient answers. Play out the doctor's visit from both perspectives. How does the elderly person speak differently than the young professional? What different questions do they ask? How do they express their concerns? This kind of character-based role-playing is not just fun, it's incredibly educational because it exposes you to different ways of using English, different cultural perspectives, and different communication styles. Let me share with you a technique that combines speaking practice with motivation and goal visualization, speaking about your future plans and dreams. This is where you talk out loud about your goals, your plans, and your vision for your future in English. The value of this practice is multifold. First, you're getting speaking practice while discussing meaningful, important topics. Second, you're developing the vocabulary and language structures needed to talk about the future, which uses specific tenses and expressions. Third, there's actually research showing that when you speak your goals out loud, you're more likely to achieve them because you're making a commitment and creating a psychological obligation. Here's how to do this practice. Think about your life 1 year from now. What do you want to have accomplished? What skills do you want to have developed? What experiences do you want to have had? Now speak about this future version of yourself. You might say, 1 year from now, I will be significantly more fluent in English. I'll be able to hold conversations with native speakers without worrying about making mistakes. I plan to have read at least 3 books in English.
I hope to have traveled to an English-speaking country and practiced my English in real-world situations. I want to be confidently using English in my work. I'm committed to continuing my daily practice because I know that consistency is the key to achieving my goals. Here's another future visualization exercise. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. You've achieved your goals, you're fluent in English, you're living your dream life. Tell yourself about it. 5 years from now, I am fully bilingual in English. I speak it naturally in both professional and social situations. I've friends from different English-speaking countries. I've traveled extensively and experienced different cultures. I use my English skills in my career, and I get opportunities because of my fluency. I'm proud of myself for staying committed to this goal, even when it was challenging.
This kind of visualization practice does something psychological that's really powerful. It makes your goals feel more real and more achievable. It reminds you why you're doing this hard work of practicing English consistently. It creates a positive image of yourself as someone who is fluent, confident, and capable. Here's a challenge for you. Right now, take a few minutes and speak about your English goals for the next year. What do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to be able to speak English? What experiences do you want to have? Say these things out loud with confidence and conviction, as if you're already there or as if it's guaranteed to happen. Let me teach you about a sophisticated technique for developing conversational fluency, creating and practicing imaginary conversations with specific people. Unlike the general role-playing we discussed earlier, this is where you imagine a conversation with a specific person in a specific setting, and you develop that conversation in detail. Here's how it works. First, imagine a person. Maybe it's a friend you'd like to reconnect with, or a mentor you admire, or a celebrity, or someone you'd like to meet. Then, imagine a setting and a situation. Finally, have a conversation with that imaginary person, speaking both your part and theirs. That's fascinating. I noticed that meeting one of your favorite authors at a book signing. You might say, "I've been waiting to meet you for so long. Your books have had a profound impact on my life. I was wondering if you could tell me about your writing process. Where do you get your ideas from?" The author might respond, "Thank you so much for those kind words. It means so much to know that my work connects with readers. My ideas usually come from personal experiences and observations of life around me." Then you continue, "That's fascinating. I noticed that many of your characters face similar challenges to ones I've dealt with. Did you intentionally include those themes?" The author, "Yes, I wanted to write about real, relatable struggles because I think readers connect more deeply with characters who feel authentic. What character resonated most with you?" See how this imaginary conversation is developing naturally, with each person responding appropriately and the conversation flowing. This kind of practice develops your ability to have natural, flowing conversations, to ask follow-up questions, to listen and respond to answers. Here's another scenario. Imagine you're meeting a potential mentor or teacher. You might say, "I've been very interested in learning about your field. I admire your work and the path you've taken. I was wondering if you'd be willing to give me some advice about how to get started in this field." The mentor might respond, "Of course. It's always great to see young people interested in this field. What specifically attracts you to this area?" You continue, "I love problem solving and helping others. I think this field combines both of those aspects. What do you think are the most important skills to develop?" The mentor, "Great question. I'd say patience, continuous learning, and empathy are the most important. You also need to be willing to fail and learn from your mistakes." This kind of imaginary conversation helps you develop the ability to have meaningful, substantive conversations with people, to ask thoughtful questions, and to engage deeply with ideas. Here's a technique that really pushes your fluency and builds your ability to speak spontaneously and continuously. The 1-minute challenge.
This is where you set a timer for 1 minute, pick a topic, and speak non-stop for the entire minute without pausing to think or to correct yourself. The goal is not perfection. The goal is continuous speech. You're training your brain to keep producing English without overthinking it. Most learners struggle with this because they pause frequently, they wait for words to come to them, they hesitate and repeat themselves. The 1-minute challenge forces you to overcome that tendency. Here's how to do it. Set a timer for 1 minute. Choose a topic. Start speaking. Your job is to keep talking until the timer goes off. If you can't think of a word, describe it in other ways. If you repeat an idea, that's okay. Just keep going. If you're unsure about grammar, don't stop to correct yourself. Just keep moving forward. Let me give you an example. Topic, my morning routine. You might say, I usually wake up at about 6:30 in the morning. I don't like to jump out of bed immediately. I like to stretch and let my body wake up slowly. Then I go to the bathroom and splash cold water on my face. After that, I make myself a cup of tea because I need something warm in the morning. I enjoy sitting by the window with my tea and watching the sunrise. It's a nice way to start the day feeling calm and peaceful. Then I take a shower and get dressed for the day. I check my schedule and plan what I want to accomplish. By the time I'm ready to leave, I feel focused and ready to face the day. Notice that in that minute, I spoke about several aspects of the morning routine. I didn't use perfect grammar in every sentence, but I was expressing my ideas clearly and continuously. Try another topic, my favorite food. You might say, my favorite food is definitely biryani. It's a traditional rice dish from my country. It's made with basmati rice, meat or vegetables, and a lot of aromatic spices. The smell of biryani cooking is absolutely amazing. It makes my mouth water just thinking about it. I love eating it with yogurt on the side and a fresh salad. My mother makes the best biryani. Even though it takes hours to prepare, it's so worth the time and effort. The rice is fluffy and each grain is separate. The meat is so tender and flavorful. I especially love the caramelized onions on top. I could eat biryani every single day and never get tired of it. When you do the 1-minute challenge regularly, you'll notice a significant improvement in your ability to speak continuously, to think on your feet, and to express yourself fluently. What seemed impossible at first becomes much easier with practice. Even though this entire episode is focused on solo practice, I want to mention the importance of building some form of community or accountability to support your learning journey. While you can definitely learn English entirely on your own, having some connection with others can be incredibly motivating and helpful. You don't necessarily need an in-person conversation partner to have community. There are many ways to connect with other English learners online. You could join online communities of English learners where people share their goals, their progress, and encourage each other. You could find a language exchange partner online where you speak English with someone learning your native language. You could join an English learning group on social media where people share their journey and celebrate each other's victories. The value of community isn't that you're getting actual conversation practice, though that's nice if it happens. The real value is that you're sharing your goals with others. You're getting encouragement and support, and you're seeing other people's progress, which can be inspiring and motivating for your own journey. You could also create accountability with a friend or family member. Tell them about your English learning goals. Ask them to check in with you regularly about your progress. Share your victories with them. This kind of personal accountability can be really powerful in keeping you on track. You could also consider hiring a tutor for occasional sessions where you can get professional feedback on your speaking. Even if you practice alone most of the time, having a professional assess your progress and provide feedback can be valuable. A tutor can point out patterns in your speech, areas where you need improvement, and strategies specific to your learning style and goals. The key is to find a balance between solo practice, which is incredibly effective and convenient, and some form of community or accountability, which can provide motivation, feedback, and encouragement.
As we near the end of this episode, I want to talk about the importance of tracking your progress and celebrating your victories, no matter how small. Many people feel like they're not making progress because they're measuring progress in the wrong way. They expect that after a few weeks of practice, they should suddenly be able to have fluent conversations. When that doesn't happen, they feel discouraged. But actual language learning progress is more subtle and gradual. You might not notice it in big leaps, but if you pay attention, you'll see small improvements all the time. Maybe you understood a word you didn't know last week. Maybe you spoke for 5 minutes without stopping this week when you couldn't do that a month ago. Maybe you felt less anxious about speaking. Maybe you made fewer mistakes this time than last time. These are all victories worth celebrating.
I recommend keeping a simple progress journal. After each practice session or each week, write down or record something you noticed. It could be, "Today I spoke about my favorite hobby for a full minute without stopping to think." Or, "I understood a conversation between two people speaking English at normal speed." Or, "I remembered and used a new vocabulary word in a sentence." Or, "I felt confident and less nervous when practicing." When you keep a record like this, over time, you'll see a clear picture of your progress. You might look back at a recording from 2 months ago and be shocked at how different your speaking sounds now. You might reread your journal and be amazed at how far you've come. This is incredibly motivating and helps you stay committed to your practice. Also, celebrate your victories, even small ones. If you practiced every day this week as you planned, celebrate that. Give yourself a small reward. Maybe it's watching a movie you enjoy, or having your favorite food, or something else that makes you happy. This positive reinforcement helps your brain associate language learning with positive feelings, which increases motivation. Set milestone goals, like "I will record myself speaking for 5 minutes by the end of this month," or "I will complete 1 conversation role play without hesitating by next week," or "I will watch a 10-minute video in English and understand most of it by the end of the month." When you achieve these milestones, acknowledge them and celebrate them. You've earned it. Before we wrap up this episode, I want to share something crucial about the mindset that will determine your long-term success with English learning. You need to shift from a focus on perfection to a focus on progress. This mindset shift is honestly one of the most important things I can teach you. Many language learners sabotage their own progress because they have a perfectionist mindset. They think that every sentence they speak needs to be grammatically perfect. They think that if they make a mistake, they're failing. They think that they should be able to speak like a native speaker within a few months. These unrealistic expectations lead to frustration and eventually giving up. The truth is, speaking English perfectly is not the goal. The goal is to communicate your ideas effectively so that other people understand you. Yes, grammar and pronunciation matter, but they're not more important than actually being able to express yourself and connect with other people. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. They mispronounce words, they use incorrect grammar, they hesitate and pause. The only difference is that they do it less frequently because they've had thousands of hours of practice. What you should be focused on is making progress. Are you better this week than you were last week? Can you speak for longer without pausing? Can you understand more when you hear English? Do you feel less anxious? Do you feel more confident? These are the things that matter. Progress is what counts, not perfection. Here's what I want you to internalize. Every time you speak English, even if you make mistakes, you're making progress. Your brain is building neural pathways related to English. You're training your mouth to produce English sounds. You're building vocabulary and understanding. Every single practice session matters, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment.
Mistakes are not failures. They're proof that you're pushing yourself and learning. I would rather see someone make mistakes frequently and keep practicing than see someone speak perfectly but only speak a few sentences. The person making mistakes is the one who will become fluent. So let go of the need to be perfect. Embrace the process of learning. Accept that you will make mistakes. Celebrate the fact that you're showing up and putting in the effort to improve. That's what real progress looks like. As we wrap up this comprehensive guide to practicing English speaking alone, I want to leave you with some final thoughts and encouragement as you continue on your English learning journey. First, remember that you already have everything you need to become fluent in English. You have your voice, you have your time, and you have the techniques and strategies I've shared with you today. You don't need to wait for the perfect conversation partner, the perfect course, or the perfect opportunity. You can start right now, today, in this very moment, and begin speaking English out loud. Second, understand that consistency is more important than intensity. It's better to practice for 10 minutes every single day than to practice for 2 hours once a week. The daily practice keeps English in your consciousness and builds steady, reliable progress. The sporadic, intense practice is quickly forgotten. Make English a part of your daily routine, not something special that you do occasionally. Fifth, remember why you started. Whatever your ultimate goal is, hold on to it. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want to study. Maybe you want to work internationally. Maybe you want to connect with people from different parts of the world. Maybe you want to feel more confident. Whatever your reason, remember it. When you're feeling unmotivated, that reason will fuel you to keep going. Finally, celebrate yourself for taking this step. The fact that you listened to this entire episode shows that you're serious about improving your English. You're willing to learn and grow. You're taking responsibility for your own learning. That's admirable, and that's what's going to lead to your success. I want you to know that I believe in you. I believe that you have the potential to become fluent in English. I believe that your solo practice will pay off. I believe that you're going to surprise yourself with how much you can accomplish. All you have to do is keep showing up, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. Before we finish, I want to give you a practical action plan so that you can start implementing these techniques immediately. Not someday, but today. Here's what I want you to do. First, choose one technique from everything I've shared with you that resonates with you the most. Maybe it's mirror speaking. Maybe it's recording yourself. Maybe it's topic-based speaking. Pick the one that feels most appealing to you right now. That's the one you're going to start with. Second, schedule a specific time for your practice. Don't just say, I'll practice English sometime. Pick a specific time. Maybe it's right after breakfast. Maybe it's during your lunch break. Maybe it's before bed. Pick a time and commit to it. Third, set a realistic goal for the next week. Don't try to do everything at once. Just focus on this one technique. Maybe your goal is, I will practice mirror speaking for 10 minutes every morning for 5 days this week. That's specific, that's realistic, and that's achievable. Fourth, remove barriers. Make it easy for yourself to practice. If you're going to record yourself, make sure you know how to use your voice recorder app. If you're going to do mirror speaking, practice near a mirror. If you're going to do topic-based speaking, have a list of topics ready. Make it as easy as possible to practice. Fifth, prepare to celebrate. When you complete your goal for the week, celebrate it. Tell someone about it. Write it down. Do something nice for yourself. You've earned it. Sixth, plan your next step. At the end of the week, after you've practiced the first technique consistently, add a second technique. Maybe you'll continue mirror speaking and add recording yourself. Now you have 2 techniques you're practicing. The week after, add a third. Over time, you'll have a comprehensive practice routine that's tailored to your preferences and your life. Seventh, join a community or find accountability. Share your goals with someone. Tell a friend, family member, or online community about what you're working on.
This creates accountability and support. Eighth, be patient and trust the process. Remember that progress takes time. But if you show up consistently, if you practice regularly, you will make progress. I guarantee it. As we reach the end of this episode, I want to come full circle to where we started. You came here thinking that you're stuck because you don't have a conversation partner. You came here thinking that solo practice might not be effective. But I hope that by now, you understand the incredible power of practicing English speaking alone. You don't need anyone else to become fluent in English. You just need your voice, your determination, and the right techniques. And now you have all of those things. Speaking English fluently is not a privilege reserved for people who live in English-speaking countries or people who have access to expensive tutors. It's a skill that you can develop anywhere, anytime, completely on your own. It just requires consistency, practice, and the willingness to sound awkward and make mistakes while you're learning. Make English a part of your identity. Talk to yourself in English when you wake up. Narrate your tasks in English. Ask yourself questions in English. Think in English. Dream in English. The more you use the language, the more natural it becomes. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent and curious and committed to your own growth. Your voice is powerful. Your practice matters. Your progress is real, and your fluency is absolutely within your reach. I hope this episode has shown you that you already have everything you need to become the English speaker you want to be. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I've truly enjoyed creating this comprehensive guide for you, and I hope it's given you the tools, the techniques, and most importantly, the confidence to move forward on your English learning journey. Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and remember, every word you speak takes you one step closer to the fluency you're working towards. Until next time, keep speaking, keep learning, and keep growing. This is Lily, and I can't wait to hear about your progress. See you next episode.